Good afternoon. Welcome to the weekly livestock market update. I'm Brownfield anchor reporter Megan Grebner. With us as always to talk all things markets is University of Missouri Scott Brown. Good afternoon, Scott.
Good afternoon, Megan.
Really a pretty quiet week following a busy couple of weeks for us. But to get things started, let's recap what happened this week in the markets.
Yeah, this week, if we start on the cattle side, cash-fed cattle were down about $1.70 on the week. Those feeder cattle markets were anywhere from steady to $2 lower on the week. On the future side, the August live cattle futures contract was down nearly $1, and the August feeder cattle contract was down $2.60. That was somewhat led by what was a near 62-cent increase in the September corn futures contract this week. On the beef side, choice box beef prices were down $21.30 this week on really weakness across the board in those components of the choice box beef price. On the hog side, cash barrel and gill prices were virtually unchanged this week, as was the August live lean hog futures contract. It was also unchanged. Pork side, pork cutout value gained a little more than $3 this week. That was really led by what were stronger ham and belly prices this week.
Scott, when we take a look at the box beef prices, are we seeing a correction or are we concerned about the consumer side of things?
So number one, it's early. We have been for a few weeks now seeing what's lower box beef prices. As we kind of get out of the early demand from consumer grilling that we see, as we, I believe, are starting to see some of the food service side lose the slug of demand that came as we had reopening occur. I think those things have really been responsible for what have been lower choice box beef prices. Now, I'm not going to suggest consumer demand is necessarily weak at this point in time. It's really just a change in where we sit relative to that grilling season and just overall volumes headed to HRI.
Scott, as we look at this week, we're going to talk a little bit about slaughter totals, kind of an uptick than we've seen recently. How does that kind of change, or how does the holiday play into what was going on this week as we look compared to a year ago?
Yeah, so certainly we want to take a little bit of what we're going to report here on slaughter with a grain of salt, given that we are going into the 4th of July holiday. And I think we're going to see pretty small runs here as we talk about tomorrow being Saturday's run. For cattle, 623,000 head of cattle estimated this week by USDA. That's actually down 38,000 head relative to a week ago. And again, I'll say I think that's a lot to do with just the 4th of July holiday. It is 42,000 more than where we were a year ago in terms of cattle slaughter. On the hog side, a run of 2.282 million head this week. That's also down 77,000 head from where we were a week ago, but 243,000 above where we were a year ago. So 4th of July holiday is going to have some effects, and oh, by the way, it'll carry into next week's slaughter numbers as well. As I have a hunch Monday will be a pretty slow run for both cattle and hogs.
One of the big report this week, obviously, Acreage Report from USDA came out. And while we're not necessarily focused on taking into the specifics of that, how do we look at those numbers and how that potentially impacts input prices for producers?
Yeah, so we, from a livestock perspective, didn't get a lot of good news out of the June Acreage Report. Almost 93 million acres of corn in that report. I think there were some folks that were holding out hope for as much as 95, 96 million acres. Maybe even the pre-report midpoint would have been a little higher than the 92.7 that we came out with. So corn prices have certainly gone up this week as a result of that report. On the soybean side, it's not like we picked up more soybeans as we didn't get as many corn acres as we thought. Soybeans came in at 87.6. For me, this just continues to remind us we're tight. Stocks are currently tight. We didn't maybe get as many acres as we would have hoped. So now we're betting on good yields as we think about what the size of this crop is. I I think we want to take advantage of maybe opportunities where these prices maybe move down for a period of time as well. And I know that's hard to do just given where we're at in terms of feed costs, but again, this is all going to hinge on weather from this point forward. I expect a lot of volatility here as we continue to think about what these crops ultimately harvest at the end of the day.
Scott, let's talk a little consumer side of things, restaurant performance index. We saw a little bit of a downturn from April. What are some of the factors that are driving that?
Yeah, so I think, the overall index came in at 105.5 for May. We were sitting at 106.3 for April. For me, both the current situation and the expectations pieces of that overall index were down. When you look at same store sales, in April, we were at 109.2. In May here, we sit at 107.5. So I'm a little concerned about that fall off in same store sales. Customer traffic also similarly down, 109 in April. It's now 106.5. Some of those numbers we'll have to keep an eye on as we look forward to the June report. We had been seeing what was continued growth in expectations, but some of that's calmed down as well, and we actually fell 0.6 of a point on that expectations index. So we'll pay attention to that same store sales as we look ahead.
Scott, the last report for us to talk about this week, jobs report, and it allows us to head into the end of the day Friday on a positive note.
That's right. 850,000 jobs added in June. That was well above the median pre-report estimate of 720,000. So a lot of good news here with that level of jobs report. We'd have to go back to August to find a month where we added more than 850,000 jobs. So after what had been a few months here where I think we were kind of dragging in terms of adding new jobs, that June number certainly comes in and gives us a strong end here to June 2021, and hopefully suggests some stronger demand on the consumer side as we look ahead.
I did say we were going to end on a positive note, but I don't think we can chat without talking about the weather situation in parts of the country as we continue to watch areas that are challenged by drought. And then we also see the areas that have been hit by massive and historic floods. How does this play out for us? And how much, as livestock producers, are we watching how this plays out in the next couple of weeks and months and through the remainder of the growing season?
Yeah, it's a good conversation for us to continue to have. And I'll say from an hay and pasture condition, what's happening in the West, what's happening in the Dakotas continues to be all bad, continues to be very dry weather that I think could be the big mover for cattle markets as we get 16, 24 months down the road here in a positive way as we continue to probably see some liquidation occurring there. On the crop side, what a mixed bag we have. I sit here in Missouri. Some parts of the state probably received in excess of 15 inches of rain here over the last week. Some flooding that we haven't seen for quite a while. Some replant trying to happen in some places still yet, even though it's very late in the season. To me, it just adds more uncertainty to ultimately what yields we end up with at the end of the day. But we do need rain. And so maybe, although it's been too much in many places here the last several days, excess moisture might mean some yields that look better. We'll just see how bad some of the wind and some of the bottom areas around the country have been affected by the flooding that's unfolded.
And that's a conversation, like you said, we'll continue to have week in and week out and check in on how things are looking. As we look ahead to next week, a fairly quiet week report-wise again, and we'll end the week chatting about?
Yeah, monthly trade data will be out next week, so that'll give us a little more look at what's happening in the rest of the world.
And don't forget or don't miss us on Wednesday, another quarterly market outlook webinar. This time, we'll be joined by Joe Outlaw with Texas A&M and Kenny Burdine with University of Kentucky. So that's Wednesday. If you'd like to ask questions, if you want to participate, watch, get involved, have your questions answered by the experts, go to brownfieldagnews.com and register today. That's really all we have for this week. Great to see you. Have a happy 4th of July weekend, and don't set off any fireworks.
I was going to say, be safe with those firecrackers, Megan, okay?
We're a sparklers kind of family. Fireworks. All right. So, our weekly livestock market update delivered to your email box every Saturday morning. Go to brownfieldagnews.com. You can submit questions and comments and subscribe there as well. Have a great weekend. Happy Independence Day, and we'll talk to you next Friday. I'm Megan Grebner for Brownfield.